Hi, I'm Dan Cortopassi, and today I'm reviewing an HO scale Southern Pacific GP9R locomotive from Athearn Genesis. My model is detailed and decorated for Southern Pacific in the failed SPSF merger or Kodachrome scheme. Athearn offers this model in two versions. The MSRP for the DCC Ready version is $219.99. The MSRP for the version with DCC and sound is $319.99. I got my DCC Ready model for $164.22 from Factory Direct Hobbies. We'll start the model at 100 possible points. The engine is packed in a sturdy cardboard box. Opening the box reveals some literature, including a page with exploded view drawings. Soft foam surrounds a two-piece plastic cradle that holds the model. I like that Athearn put a warning label on the plastic cradle that explains how to unpack and handle the model. Like most diesels with side walkways, the model comes with foam handrail protectors. Unfortunately, on my model, the radiator grille on the engineer's side was detached. One of the wind deflectors in the cab is also loose. I'm going to remove it and set it aside so it doesn't fall off in some random place and get lost. These should be easy fixes, but a brand new model shouldn't have broken parts, so I'm taking 5 points. I don't think the box is to blame for the detached parts, and it should give good protection for storage and transport. Southern Pacific 2873 was built in 1956 as part of an 80-unit order for both SP and subsidiary Texas and New Orleans. 2873 was originally given a T&NO number 443. In 1965, SP renumbered the engine 3565. The unit was upgraded and rebuilt in 1977 and became SP 3798. To rail fans and modelers, SP's GP9 rebuilds are known as GP9Es or GP9Rs. According to Joseph Strapac's Historic Diesels Volume 7, these are not official terms that were used by the SP. The E came from SP's class designation for locomotives that were sold to Southern Pacific Equipment Company and leased back to the railroad. If I'm understanding correctly, the R designation was for locomotives that went through SP's upgrade program but were not part of the leaseback program, and the distinction was more for accounting purposes than because of any physical differences between the locomotives. So technically 3798 was a Class EF 418R-3, which would make it a GP9R in railfan terms. In 1978, number 3798 was one of a number of SP GP9s downgraded to switcher service, and it was renumbered 2873. 2873 was one of the locomotives repainted in the red, yellow, and black Southern Pacific Santa Fe merger scheme, also known as the Kodachrome scheme. The placement of the SP on the long hood is different on both sides. This was done to allow room for adding SF to spell out SPSF after the merger. Because the merger was denied, no in-service units ever had the full SPSF lettering. A few diesels briefly wore SPSF lettering for promotional purposes. 2873 has the distinction of being the last surviving operable diesel in full SP Kodachrome paint. It has been preserved at the Western Pacific Railroad Museum in Portola, California. I compared the model to photos that I took of the real 2873 in 2016 and to photos that I found online. The model appears to be a very close match overall. Athearn got the vast majority of the details right, like the access doors on the hood ends that were present on many of SP's GP9s. The battery box door louvers are correct for 2873. A lot of SP's rebuilt GP9s had replacement doors with 2 sets of smaller louvers. And of course the SP light packages are present on both ends. A photo from 1985 shows this engine still in scarlet and gray. The earliest photos I found of this unit in the Kodachrome scheme were from 1986, which was probably when the unit was repainted. The SPSF scheme started to appear in 1985, and repaint stopped by mid-1987 when the final appeal of the merger denial failed. The model most closely matches the appearance of the engine from 1986 to 1988. A photo from 1989 shows the unit with more conventional black number boards with white letters. The horn appears to have been swapped with one from a gray unit around the same time. My photos from Portola show the engine with a completely different horn. The unit is also very faded and weathered. None of the photos I found from 1986 clearly show the Roseville stencil under the cab, though the one from 1985 in scarlet and gray does have it. Some of the photos from the 80s show a stencil of some kind here, but unfortunately they're too low res to see clearly. The only real discrepancies I found are fairly minor. The pilots have more modern uncoupling levers, but the corners aren't notched as they are in the real unit. On the left side, there should be a rectangular plate on the panel under the walkway behind the cab. Both sides should have an additional fuel gauge ahead of the fuel tank, just like the ones that appear behind the tank. There's also a rounded cover plate above the forward part of the fuel tank that's not present on the model. In the rear, the number boards on the real unit are plated over, not just painted over as on the model. My photos also show that the rear class lights are plated over. These are all fairly minor issues, and I would wager that the model is close enough for a lot of people as is. Still, correcting these things would require a bit of work, so I'm taking 5 points for all of it. The paint on the model is opaque. The red is a little thick, though still thin enough that it allows the surface detail on the shell to show through. There are a few voids in the SP lettering on the left side over the louvers, but nothing too objectionable. The grills on the sides of the long hood are photo etched. There is louver detail behind them, which is easy to see since the one grill fell off. With the grills on, it's hard to see this detail. The handrail stanchions on the model are straight up and down, which is better than some other models I've seen with plastic handrails. In the front, the model has the full SP light package, separately applied grab irons, and number boards that are painted on and unfortunately not lightable. Since this model comes in at a lower price than some other top-end diesels, I'm not going to take points here, but I really think Athearn should start making the number boards lightable on its Genesis models. Likewise, the class lights and red emergency lights are non-functional. Lower down, the model has non-working drop steps, an MU stand, uncoupling levers, and hoses. Detail in the back is similar to the front except for the painted over number boards and nicely done brake ratchet. Oddly, the walkway steps are photo etched, but the corner steps are just blank plastic with no see-through detail. Like the number boards, I think this is okay at this price level, but I'd really like to see some see-through steps here. The cab has photo etched sunshades, clear plastic wind deflectors, and armrests. Like a lot of Athearn models, the cab windows are theoretically positionable, though they are pretty sticky on my model. It's hard to see, but the cab has an interior painted light green. On top, the model has sand filler covers, more freestanding grab irons, lift rings, an SP-style whip antenna base, and a 3-chime air horn. The fans have see-through grills with blade detail inside. The exhaust stacks are nicely done. Underneath, there's enough detail to look good when the model is on the track. The sander lines are flexible, and thankfully they don't seem to interfere with the truck swing. All the axles are powered and all the wheels pick up current. The wheels have the standard RP25 tread profile. The model has McHenry plastic knuckle couplers on both ends. Looking for a match on the horizontal center line, the front coupler is high, so I'm taking 5 points. The rear coupler is also slightly high. All the wheels are in gauge according to the NMRA standards gauge. There is no body wobble. The model weighs 12.5 ounces. Drawbar pull topped out at 2.9 ounces, similar to many other HO scale diesels. I'm testing the engine on DC. Like most newer Athearn models, this one has LED lighting. The headlight and oscillating light on the front come on when the engine moves forward, and the lights get brighter as more voltage is applied. The oscillating light doesn't actually do that on DC. The rear lights come on in reverse. The engine runs smoothly and the mechanism is fairly quiet. Some of the handrail stanchions are prone to coming loose. I may eventually use a little canopy glue to tack them down. To take the shell off, first remove the draft gearbox screws and pull out the couplers. Then the shell will lift off. Be careful of the wires for the lights. Inside there's a 21-pin dummy plug. If you want to convert the engine to DCC, replace this with a 21-pin DCC decoder. The model has a die-cast frame, skew-wound motor, and brass flywheels. While I had the model apart, I replaced the plastic couplers with KD158s. These are still high, just like the stock couplers. The draft gearboxes are a tight fit. To lower them, first I'll need to file the bottom of the opening in the pilot for clearance. I ended up using 20,000 shims on both ends to get the couplers at the right height. Since the grill is off anyway, before I put it back on, I'm going to experiment by putting a little black weathering powder in the louvers. I'll use some canopy glue to reattach the part. This dries clear and it's easy to wipe off any excess. It doesn't look like the weathering powder made much of a difference in appearance compared to the other grills. I'll use the same glue on the wind deflector. That'll do it for now. Eventually I'll want to install DCC and sound and work on improving the lights, but that'll be another video. So you may have heard me say before that I especially like to model locomotives that I've seen in person. I was happy to get some good footage of the real 2873 up at the Western Pacific Railroad Museum in Portola back in 2016. When I saw the model come available, I ordered one as quickly as I could so I'd make sure to get one. I also really like the Athearn Genesis SP GP9s because they have a lot of the hard-to-do stuff already done for you, like the little access doors on the ends of the hood. It's really nice to be able to take it out of the box and have it be mostly correct. So this will be a good companion to my other GP9s. I've got, I think, 2 in gray and scarlet, and then I have one Black Widow GP9 of 5623, which is another preserved locomotive. at the Niles Canyon Railway. So far apart in reality, but I don't have any problem running them together on the Donner Pass layout when I get to that point. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's see what we've got. The model had some loose parts, so I took 5 points in the packaging category. There were a few minor discrepancies between the real engine and the model, so I took 5 points in the prototype accuracy category. Both couplers were at the wrong height, so I took 10 points in the standards and operation category. That leaves us with 80 out of 100 possible points, which earns a B-. Overall, this is a nice model and it deserves a green signal. Overall, I think Athearn did a really nice job on this model, and I'm happy to have it in my collection. If you like this video, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching.